Hello everyone, it's day 58 and today is April 30, the last day of this month. And today there are a few important articles I found over the editorial page and not on the explained page. So there are, this is the first article is regarding the Election Commission Model Code of Conduct, and the second article is about the FSSAI, the food controversy, and one important article about the this in the name of equality, Rahul Gandhi's call for social X-ray is divisive. So let us see these three articles one by one. So first is about the Mind the Gap. Election Commission's model code needs reform. Model leadership will also help. So let us see. This article is written by Ashok Lavasa, who is the former election commissioner. So let us see. I did not take kindly to the usual methods and devices that accompany electioneering. Elections were an essential and inseparable part of the democratic process, and there was no way of doing away with them. Yet, often enough, elections brought out the evil side of a man, and it was obvious that they did not always lead to the success of the better man. Sensitive persons and those who were not prepared to adopt rough and ready methods to push themselves forward were at a disadvantage and preferred to avoid these contests. Was democracy then to be close preserve of those possessing thick skins and loud voices and accommodating consciences? This passage occurs in the Discovery of India, written by the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, when the Election Commission of India did not exist, nor did the Model Code of Conduct. The Model Code of Conduct, a unique consensual arrangement that evolved over many years, comes under stress as soon as it comes into force with the announcement of elections. It tests political parties, their leaders, the candidates, and the election commission itself. All this is under the piercing gauge of the media and the critical oversight of the judiciary. The Model Code of Conduct started as a small set of do's and don'ts for the assembly election in Kerala. It covered the conduct of election meetings, processions, speeches, slogans, posters, and placards in 1960 when KVK Sundaram was the chief election commissioner. In 1968, under CEC SP Sen Verma, the Election Commission consulted with political parties and circulated the code to observe minimum standards of behavior to ensure free and fair elections. Whereas it became practice for the Election Commission to circulate the code before every general election in 1979 with SL Shakdar at the helm, the Election Commission, in consultation with political parties, further amplified the code, adding a new section that placed restriction on the party in power to prevent abuse of position to get undue advantage over the other parties and candidates. In 1991, the Model Code of Conduct was consolidated and reissued, and the redoubtable TN session used it as a weapon of mass destruction. Okay, the political environment in the country has since sharpened, blunting the efficacy of the Model Code of Conduct. Stances of violation are becoming rampant and rabid. Political leaders are employing their prestige, firepower, and demagoguery like never before, and finding igneous ways to remain in the shadow zone between the letter and the spirit of the MCC. Money has replaced muscle. Technology has provided a shining armor. Chicanery in dodging the Model Code of Conduct has a higher premium than the inclination to adhere. While the Model Code of Conduct draws its strength and sanctity from the strict, prompt, and non-discriminatory enforcement by the Election Commission, there is a need to remodel it by imposing more reasonable restriction in a non-discriminatory manner. This is essential to restore a certain degree of decorum and discipline in public discourse. A significant gap in present framework is that the Model Code of Conduct has not clearly spelled out the consequences of defaults, thus diluting its a deterrent effect. It is necessary to specify punitive measures in a fair, transparent, and a predictable manner, especially with respect to serious violations such as hate speech, invoking communal and caste feelings to secure votes, offering inducements of garnering votes, using foul, filthy, and abusive language against political opponents, indulging in political propaganda by invoking, praising, questioning, or criticizing the Indian armed forces, etc. Such violations should attract severe consequences that could be graded and made known publicly. For example, the first case of any such violation could attract a ban on campaign for a specific period. The second could entail a ban for a longer period, and the third could debar the concerned candidate or political functionary for the entire period while the MCC is in force. Such a ban would mean a complete prohibition on all public appearances and interactions on all forms of media. Those found in repeated violation would not be eligible to be categorized as star campaigners in subsequent elections for a certain length of time. In a rather deft, some felt it was droll move, the election commission has taken the unprecedented step of serving political parties notice for violations alleged to be committed by individuals, whereas a traffic violation is the responsibility of the driver. Issuing a notice to the party introduces the principle of vicarious liability, as notices are served only after prima facie satisfaction by the election commission. Perhaps the time has come for the Model Code of Conduct to initiate punitive action against political parties if its functionaries or star campaigners are involved in a proven cases of MCC violation. This action could be a fine and or action under the election symbols reservation and allotment order if warranted. The mechanics of this should also be suitably incorporated into the revamped MCC without without absolving individual offenders. The procedure of dealing with such cases should be streamlined such that punitive action is taken within 72 hours of the violation. A standard procedure must be let down delayed responses dilute the impact of penalties and diminish public confidence in the credibility of the election commission. A list of all cases of reported violations should be compiled. A statement of their disposal pendency should be displayed on the election commission website, and a database needs to be created for public information. In Model Code of Conduct, violations directly connected with specific provisions of extant laws under various acts, it ought to be the responsibility of law enforcement machinery to initiate legal action. If that has not been done, and a complaint is received and action is taken by the election commission, it should be mandatory that legal action by the law enforcement machinery should automatically follow, even if there is no specific direction by the election commission. So whether all this will deter political violators and instill an element of self-regulation in the conduct of political parties depend on the character of the political leaders. However, it would certainly limit the referee's discretion in decision making, thereby sparing him allegations of bias and discrimination. The election commission would also bind itself publicly to proceed against cases of transgression in a time bound and credible manner, which will inspire greater public confidence in its commitment to conducting free and fair elections. But more than anything, what can inspire popular trust is model leadership and not model codes. So, Demosthenes said, "You cannot have a proud and chivalrous spirit if your conduct is mean and paltry. For whatever a man's action are, such must be his spirit." So that was a suggestion given by the former election commissioner of India. So uh, let us see the another important article which is regarding the in the name of equality. So the Rahul Gandhi has called for the social executive. So let us see what this article is going to say. As India stands at the cusp of significant socio-economic transformation, Rahul Gandhi's recent speeches and the Congress manifesto suggest a turn towards an era many thought had passed. They echo the grand socialist experiment of the 20th century that promised much but delivered little. Rahul Gandhi's approach, which envisages extensive socio-economic surveys and caste census, seems less about fostering unity and more about seeking fault lines and sowing division. So during the Congress Manifesto launch rally in Hyderabad, he advocated for an intrusive socio-economic and caste census to dissect society for resource distribution. This approach dangerously aligns with the Maoist doctrine of struggle and transformation, which historically led to the catastrophic outcomes such as China's Great Leap Forward and the economic disarray in Venezuela under socialist policy. The the manifesto pledges to implement nationwide socio-economic re-engineering based on caste data. Similar social engineering experiments have repeatedly failed across the globe. Such measures threaten to push India into economic and social chaos, driven by an ideological zeal that ignores the complex array of factors to play within a modern economy. By relying on the bureaucratic dictates to release social outcomes, such measures end up exacerbating the problem. Rahul Gandhi's emphasis on redistributing institutional power during his appearance in the Biora and Bhandara risk embedding economic policy with a narrow communal context. At the heart of the Rahul Gandhi's agenda is the call for the exterior of Indian society to expose and redistribute wealth This seemingly progressive rhetoric mirrors dangerous historical precedents. These strategies are not just about the wealth distribution, they are about the reallocation power along caste line, a move that could entrench divisions rather than erase them. To repeatedly tout a social X-ray reflects the scorched earth policies of the Congress that seeks to expose Indian voters to political radioactivity. The purported targets of this X-ray are India's myriad wealth creators. In their eagerness to demonize wealth creators and to weaponize wealth redistribution, the Congress and Rahul Gandhi seem to have forgotten the basic tenets of economics. With the responsible talks of a societal X-ray, Congress and Rahul Gandhi are willing to filter away India's demographic dividend by sacrificing and jeopardizing the economic prospect of an entire generation. The radioactive politics of redistribution goes beyond merely scorching the political grounds, and for its fallout will scar an entire generation, breeding lingering discontent. Early indicators are already visible, and irresponsible promises being made by Rahul Gandhi and the Congress on cash transfer to the youth who spend their time watching reels on Instagram and YouTube, rather than motivate India's youth towards acquiring skills, building capacity, and aspiring to create value through their industry and entrepreneur spirit. The redistributive mindset of the Congress and its section and its scan seems set on scaring this generation with entitlements. So one must not be surprised by the radioactive logic of India's principal opposition party. One day seeks to even X-ray on social media activities of India's youth in its toxic pursuit of vulnerable entitlement seekers. The wisest course of India would be to shield the society from the kind of radioactivity before societal X-ray are weaponized and the competitive politics indulges in a nuclear arms race of sort. So India needs policies that foster inclusive growth, not those that gamble with its future by stirring up the societal division. It is crucial for voters to critically examine these regressive proposals which flirt dangerously with outdated and failed economic doctrines. This scrutiny is essential to prevent the scorching of our society along economic and caste line, a scenario detrimental to our national ethos of unity and diversity. As we debate the path forward, let us choose strategies that build, not those that break. India's strength lies in its diversity, and its future should be built on policies that recognize and harness this, rather than those that attempts to redistribute it through the lens of outdated ideologies rooted in politics of X-ray surveys and a radioactive census. So one another important which I found worth reading is about the frequent controversies over the food products in India shows the country's regulator in poor light. FSSAI must step up. In the past few weeks, questions have been raised about India's food safety regime in the wake of allegations against the product as varied as infant food, health drinks, and spices. The country's food business regulator FSSAI is probing charges of unhealthy sugar content in Nestle's baby food products. The agency has also begun collecting samples of the powdered spices of several brands, including market leaders MDH and Everest, uh, after regulatory authorities in Singapore and Hong Kong raised concerns of the carcinogenic additives. The authorities in the Southeast Asian countries are not the first to raise the red flags. A report in this newspaper has revealed that over the past 6 months, Customs US Custom declined entry to 31% of spice related shipment of MDH over salmonella contamination. Salmonella contamination data obtained by this newspaper from the US FDA shows that the refusal rate has doubled in the past 1 year. The EU too has reportedly placed food items originating from India under the scanner, and the contaminants in question are different, but the brands in question are among the most well known. The controversies have raised fears that a large section of the Indian market could be bypassing the regulatory radar. So one important ethylene oxide and one is about the salmonella. So these are two important terms that is being need to be referred from this article. So that's all from today's newspaper. We'll meet tomorrow with other important articles. So till then,